Welcome to your passion, purpose, and personal brand. I'm Lisa McGuire, and today we're going to have a repeat visitor that I think you will find quite compelling. Clients today are more discerning than ever. Budgets are tighter, competition is fierce, and let's be honest, that old marketing playbook is dead. People aren't swayed by noise. They're looking for authenticity and trust. And that's why referrals had never been more important. But here's the thing, referrals don't just happen because you ask for them. Nope, they happen when you become referable. And today I'm thrilled to welcome back Stacey Brown Randall, referral expert, speaker, and author of not one, but now 2 books on this very topic. Her first book taught us how to generate referrals without asking, and I'll put the link down in the show notes where you can go catch that episode. But today we're going to talk about her brand new book, The Referable Client Experience. And that takes us deeper into how to design experiences that naturally make clients want to refer you. So Stacey, welcome back to the show.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yes, I know your first episode was wildly popular with our listeners, so I have no doubt this one will be as well. So that first book that you had, that was groundbreaking, really teaching us how to generate referrals without asking. People were dumbfounded. How do you do that? But what has changed in the marketplace that you've noticed since that first book came out?
You know, when it comes to referrals, not much, because referrals are evergreen, right? It's the way to grow your business that most business owners understand exist, but I find it's still similar today as it was back then, that there's all this like half-truths around how you generate referral and all these decades-old advice of what it has to look like and how awkward and uncomfortable it kind of has to be, and you have to push through that and just do it anyway. Most of that advice still exists today, but most business owners know if I can generate more referrals in my business will grow with greater ease, and I'll probably more than likely get more better clients as well. And so the idea of the desire for business owners to want referrals hasn't changed, but I still feel like every day I have a conversation with someone and they're like, wait, you can get referrals without asking? And I'm like, I have been talking about this for 12 years. Like, yes, can we just all get on board with that? And then we can talk about all the ways to do that. But it is still, I always tell folks, I feel like I'm going up against the Goliath of the expert advice that has been out there about how you generate referrals. And that expert advice that has been around forever, which I kind of called old school or the old fashioned advice. It's like you got to ask, you got to pay, you got to network all the time to constantly be seen so you can never be forgotten. Or you have to be gimmicky and promotional, like put in your email signature, the greatest compliment you can give me is a referral. And so there's still a lot of education that I do and letting people know, no, you don't have to do it those ways. There is a different way. But the good news is that most business owners want referrals, and referrals will always be evergreen as a way to get clients, regardless of what's going on in our world.
No, I think that's really true. And I remember when you and I first met, it's probably 3 or 4 years ago, I spoke about, I get my referrals from this networking group I'm in. So, think about it. It's one of those closed networking groups where there's one industry or one seat per industry. And I remember your response, Stacey, still to this day. So how's that working out for you? Right? So that was what you said. And I took a look and I thought, that's a really great question, because we're convinced and we join these groups because we are told this is how you get referrals. But when I really looked at the numbers and the time invested, it was a shock to me. It was a total shock to me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm a big believer in networking groups. And here's the disclaimer. If they work for you.
Yes.
Right? Like if they provide to you what you're looking for and the referrals that you want. And here's the thing that I find with most groups is that there's some level of written or unwritten rule of how many referrals you're supposed to be giving. Mm-hmm. Like the whole, being a part of this group means we're going to refer to each other. That's great in theory. In reality, that only matters if I have people that actually need you to then be able to refer those people to you. Because what most people, I hear it all the time from networking groups, they're like, well, we passed 20 referrals last month. I'm like, great. How many of those 20 past referrals resulted in dollars in somebody else's bank account because they closed that referral? And that's something they don't track as readily, because if you're just passing them to pass them, then there may not actually be a need. And that's the important. I think, again, networking groups are great. You can certainly form wonderful relationships. You can certainly find people who can refer to you and you can refer to them, but you can't force it. The forcing of it is where it typically ends up not working. And then like you had to go look at the data to be like, am I getting referrals? And do they actually matter? Because am I closing them into clients?
Yes, absolutely. And so when we have that scoreboard where we're looking at the referrals, and are they even qualified to begin with? But
Right.
but all that to be said, I think one of your really great points is that doing great work isn't enough to get referrals. Why
Yeah.
is that so hard for us as business owners to accept that?
I know it's so hard to hear.
It
Like,
is.
sometimes I feel like I get to be the messenger of good news. Hey, you can get referrals without asking. And then I get to turn around and be the messenger of bad news. Oh, but by the way, doing great work does not mean you'll get referrals. And the reality of it is because if you think about it, right? You do great work. I do great work. I'm assuming the majority, if not all of your listeners do great work. And you get testimonials and you get online reviews and you get great feedback from your clients and they're like, you're amazing, right? And then you're wondering why you're not drowning in referrals. And the truth is, the ability to say to you, thank you so much, Lisa, for the problem you solved is one way that a client thinks. It is an entirely different step, or even some cases for some people, a leap to make to then actually see an opportunity and think to themselves, oh, wait, you need Lisa. Let me refer you to them. And most people feel like, okay, fine. So they can tell me they love me, but they won't refer me. And I need to close that gap for them, right? I need to close that loop for them. And so what they end up doing to their clients is enforcing really uncomfortable tactics on their clients. Be like, oh, you don't think to refer me even though you love me. So let me remind you all the time that you should be referring me. But that's not what the science shows us of how and why referrals happen. And the thing that nobody talks about is that if I refer someone to you, I want it to be my idea, because the science shows that when I refer someone to you, it's not about you to begin with. It's about someone that I know that has a problem, and I'm going to be the hero by referring them to you. But that has to be pure, right? That has to be not artificially created. It can't be manufactured. I have to be able to wait, I see a problem. Let me refer them to you, because those are the ones you're going to close. And so when I sit in a client meeting and I'm like, Lisa, I am so glad that you have had XYZ success and that you've sent me this great testimonial. Now I need you to refer me 14 people, or okay, I'm being dramatic, but right? Now I need you to see if you can refer me to anybody else. All of a sudden, I just made you feel like you have work to do for me. And I've started to commoditize our relationship. And I've taken away the goodwill that you feel and I've replaced it with a to-do.
Yes.
And so you can get your clients to refer, but you have to approach it differently. You have to respect the science behind it. You have to respect where in your client experience clients are more likely to consider referring. We call those hot zones. And then you have to make sure that you know how to bridge that gap to referrals and doing things that still make your client feel like it was their idea to refer you, even though you were using the power of suggestion. And that's the language piece that I teach.
Yes. No, I think that's a really good point, because as you said that, now can you refer me to 14 other people? You just made me want to back out of the room. Get me out of here as fast as we can. I really liked her. I thought we had this relationship. And now I'm becoming almost being manipulated, right? You start wondering, well, was all of that we just did, was that actually genuine, right?
Yeah. Or was it all because you were going to make this request of me?
Right. Exactly.
This is the thing people don't understand about referrals, and it's at a fundamental place of what I teach, and a part of my strategy and my framework and my philosophy is that you need two things for a referral to happen. You need desire and you need opportunity. The desire for me to pick you to refer to versus the hundreds or thousands of people who do something similar to what you do, and the opportunity being that there's actually somebody who needs you that I know that I can refer to you. And you don't control when I come across opportunity. As much as all the other gurus want you to believe you can control it by asking or compensating, you don't control when I come across the opportunity. But you can control the desire I feel to refer to you instead of somebody else like you. And so the focus is on building that desire for them to pick you, because we don't know when the opportunity is going to come along. And that's hard for people because everybody wants a sure thing, right? Everybody wants the easy button. Everybody wants the silver bullet. And I'm like, and so I find this with business owners all the time. They're like looking for the easy button. And a lot of times they'll think like, well, that's just the algorithm. I'm like, yeah, until they change it. And then you got to relearn it. And then you got to figure out if the lead flow you're getting from it's even valuable. Is it even worth it? With relationships, we just have to have a little bit more patience. And so I always tell folks, like, if you're looking for the easy button, if you're looking for the let's take advantage of situations and people to get what I need fast, you're in the wrong place when you're hanging out in my world.
Yeah, no, it really is. So let's look at the client experience. You say that it isn't customer service or even the work we deliver. It's how that client feels when they're working with us. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So let me first start with the customer service piece, because when I would ask clients about like, okay, so what's your client experience look like? The answers typically, and I'm sure you've heard this too, most have default to what you're doing from a customer service perspective, meaning when somebody reaches out to you and says they have a question or there's a problem, it's like how you jump into action to solve it. Customer service is totally important. Do not abandon that. You should have a way to follow up with your clients, but customer service is actually a piece within your overall client experience. And your overall client experience is actually, it's not only the work you do, but the way I teach the client experience formula, it's also the relationship you build with your clients as they're moving through their journey of working with you into when they're no longer a client with you as well. And so what you're doing, the great work and building relationships creates a feeling, right? It creates that experience, which actually has a feeling, and it's the feeling is what they're going to ultimately remember and ultimately recall when they make the decision to refer to you. So I always tell folks, we have to be referable first, and then we have to know how to bridge the gap for referrals, because if you're not referable, it doesn't matter how much you try to bridge the gap, you're not going to get them because people don't feel confident or comfortable or willing to actually refer to you. So the client experience it's like all the things you do. I teach it from a formula and a stage perspective just because it's easier for people to understand it that way. But it's all the things you do. And it truly is ultimately kind of like comes to a head in terms of how your client feels while working with you. And it's so what you do creates the feelings that they have.
Mm-hmm. And so this ties right in with my philosophy about bringing humanity back to business. We can't just be task oriented. We have to make sure that we understand how our client is feeling along the way. And so one thing that you do, Stacey, you describe 3 stages of a client journey: new, active, and alumni. Why is that alumni stage most often overlooked? Because when I saw that, I took a look at my alumni and I thought, ooh, when's the last time I gave them some love, right?
Yes, you're not alone. You actually fit the majority of humans. So here's the first thing is like alumni is typically what other people call your past clients or your previous clients. I like to shift the thinking to alumni, because not that you ever need to tell your clients they're an alumni member. I mean, you can. I certainly tell my clients, you're now an alumni. Congratulations, you arrived, right? You graduated. But you don't have to call them that to them, but you should call them that internally, because I think when you use the word alumni versus past or previous, it makes you think about them differently, right? Just like a college or university, right, has alumni of their school. They're looking to stay connected. Of course, they're looking for donations, right? But they're looking to stay connected, and you can only call yourself an alumni once you've graduated from a particular school. It's the same thing with our clients. Calling them alumni clients shifts your thinking of those clients as they move into that final stage, which they will then be in indefinitely. Why people overlook it is because we get so busy focused on bringing in new clients or servicing the clients that we have. We forget the opportunities that lie within their clients that are no longer working with us. And if we don't have a system in place or a strategy or a plan in place of how we're going to stay connected to them after we're done working with them, and I mean beyond the newsletter that you're going to send them every week or every month, if we don't have something in place, it never happens because we just get too busy. So you have to build out like, okay, if I was to do things 3 times or 4 times in a year that would allow me to stay connected to my alumni clients, what does that look like? And then in the book, I teach it from the perspective of, and then you can tier that down. Right. So it should probably be a more intense alumni experience when someone's in the first year. But once someone's hit the 5th year and they're not referring and they haven't come back as a repeat client, you probably can tier that out. Or in some cases, you can pick a marker to where they eventually drop off. Like, for me, one of the big things that I do, and this is not the only, but one of the things I do is send a holiday card every year. And ours are a little intense. They're a little like my family is, and people are like, is your family on board having to dress up and change locations and do all these themed cards? I'm like, nope, they get bribed every year to do it. But, our cards are like something that people like can look forward to because you don't ever know what the theme is going to be and how crazy the Randall family is going to look when you see them on the card. But even after 5 years, eventually I start removing folks from that alumni kind of stage, so to speak. They still stay alumni tagged in our database, but they may not make the list of things where I'm still spending money if they haven't referred or become a repeat client. So when I say alumni, it's not forever. It's for as long as you determine someone to be in the alumni stage, but it is usually past the first couple of years.
Yes. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Another distinction that you make is you balance work touch points with relationship touch points. Why is that balance such a game changer?
Yeah, because how I feel about you is going to be very logical in nature with the results that you produce for me. But when you think about how I ultimately feel about you, that's going to be produced by the feelings I have when you're extending beyond the work into the relationship you are building with me. So you have to have both. You have to have your work touch points and you have to have touch points where you're building that relationship. Now, they're not balanced in terms of like 50-50. You don't do like 10 work touch points and then balance that with 10 relationship touch points. That's actually weird. I would never recommend that. Usually I tell folks, depending on how many touch points you have in your new stage, active stage, because you don't have work in your alumni. So let's just look at new and active. Looking at how many touch points you have in new versus how many touch points you have in active, usually about 20%, sometimes 30%, depending on what you do, should be relationship. So if I have 10 touch points that happen while I determine that a client is in my new client stage, there's 10 work touch points that happen, I'm going to want to make sure 1 or 2 of them at a minimum is probably a relationship touch point as well. And then, of course, when they move to active, we kind of like reassess, okay, how many touch points do we have? Let's make sure we've got maybe 2 or so relationship-based touch points. And there's lots of ways to deploy relationship-based touch points, but they're really the opportunity for your clients to feel like they're not a number. And it doesn't mean one-on-one coffee meetings. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about a way for your clients to feel like, okay, like they treat me like I'm a human, not just a client they're producing work for. So we look at these work touch points and the relationship touch points. We want a balance of both. We want the right types of touch points within both. And we want to make sure, number one, most important, that it's repeatable. So it's not just the relationship touch points you do when things are slow and you remember, or that you kind of sometimes do, but that it happens for every single client. So it has to be repeatable.
Yes. And this just even brings me to, I had a conversation with someone on LinkedIn today about the difference between working in your business and working on your business, and how people do not take the time to prioritize that working on your business piece. Like, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, okay, that means scheduling time to really put interest into this and to really investigate. But I can see how it's going to make a difference. And so for our listener, I'd like to prompt you to think about, would you refer your own business based on the experience you deliver today? And that is a moment where it does require from some self-reflection and taking time to go look at these numbers.
Oh my gosh, it does. And the interesting thing is I always tell this to folks, it's like, do your clients know do you know what a client feels of like what it's like to work with you? Do you actually know what it's like to be a client of your own business? That's a great starting point. And then being like, would you then refer yourself? Like, and even deeper than that is, would you refer a family member? Not that people are referring family members to me for what I do, right? But if you think about that, like, would I refer to you Would I refer myself? And do you have any idea what it's like to be a client? Like, do you have any idea what in your client experience feels like you feel like you're getting the stuff out the door, but to your client, it feels choppy.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's really important to ask those questions and then dive into first fixing your client experience and then worrying about the bridging to actual referrals. Like that's like I was going through the overall, like the outline with one of my editors, and they were like, you're kind of saving the referral piece to the end. Like, isn't this the whole point of the book? And I was like, while it is the whole point of the book, you cannot jump ahead and get there if you haven't fixed your client experience to make it referable and you don't understand the formula and the stages and best practices within those stages and what those relationship touch points look like and understanding what your clients are thinking through each stage. Like, if you don't understand that and why it matters, the last part, the referral piece, you'll never get there. It doesn't matter that you want it. It'll never actually happen.
Right. It's definitely the pre-work to do. And, Stacey, I'm thinking about like when you wrote your last book to where we are today, we have instant feedback. We've got online reviews. We've got public ratings. We've got TikTok and all the things where you can have a bad experience and people can go out to the public immediately. How do you see client expectations may have shifted, and what impact does that have on referrals?
Yeah. So I think that people are having experiences within your business and they're not telling you.
Yes.
Right. They are having experiences. They are having thoughts, positive or negative, and or just like average, like meh, right? Like they're having those experiences and they're not telling you. What I do find is that sometimes those client expectations are not aligned with what you ever said you would be able to deliver on. So I think that's one thing we have to like overcome. I even address this in the book. I'm like, look, you can do all you want to build out this referable client experience. And the majority of your clients will have the experience you want them to have, but there will always be some that don't. And they're just the ones that like, you can't make happy. You can't have them experience what you want to have them experience. You just got to hope that they're grown up enough to realize that maybe they're not as happy as they should be because of something they're doing, not necessarily something that you're doing or not doing. So I think that's the first thing. And I think the other thing is paying attention to, like, we have to get better about asking for feedback. We have to get better of like making sure we understand where our clients are in the journey. And I'm a big believer. There's a lot of things in my business where I'll talk about, like, we're going to call out the elephant in the room. And so I'll reach out to clients and like, if they haven't been a part, like in my coaching program, if they haven't shown up in a couple of months and we reach out to them and they're like, it's just not working. I'm like, I'm not taking responsibility for that. Like, you haven't done the work, you haven't shown up, you haven't asked for questions, like you haven't asked for help. Like, it's also our ability to make sure our clients understand their job, their role in getting the results that they want. And so it's one of the reasons why in the book, we talk about creating an expectation map, right? What we call the journey map or the expectation map. It's like your clients need to know in visual form what it looks like to work with you. So that you can also make sure they understand their job, their role in that as well. Because they will have one bad experience and go out and tell a whole bunch of people. And what I find in those moments is they don't put those things in context. They don't put it in context as to maybe what they did wrong. It's like a brand new restaurant opens and then you go in there and they are like getting their heinies handed to them because it's brand new and they're busy and they're doing the best they can. And it will not look like that in 6 months when they figure everything out, right? But yet somebody goes online and says, this was a terrible restaurant. The service was so slow. Without putting it in context, you were there on their second night. Like, of course they haven't figured it all out. Like, show some compassion and some grace, right? Like it's the ability for people to give reviews and thoughts and opinions without taking into context what's going on. Now, when a business owner can provide context back, I think that sometimes help the client put their expectations like in truth reality form, but not always. And so I think those are all things that we kind of have to overcome and that we all have to recognize are there. And in some cases, we just have to be willing to let go. Like, not all clients have the experience they need to have, and it's not always our fault. And I know everyone's like, the client's always right. I'm like, until they're not. Like, it's just, that's just is what it is. It doesn't mean that you have to change things for them, but you do have to have processes in place to help them overcome that and to see where they have responsibility and making whatever it is you do with them actually work, that they do have a part in it.
Yeah. And what I love about what you said was having a visual experience map,
Mhm.
right? I love that because, particularly if it's a coaching situation, I mean, you're telling them or coaching or bringing them along on what to do. If you don't do that, it's not your fault that that didn't happen. And maybe it is, I didn't have time or things got distracted or whatever, but take responsibility for it. Yeah. No, I think, and sometimes I think that we do have that power to go on and just blast somebody, but I love when the business owner does come back and put that into context because I think we all know people have those experiences,
We
right?
do. Like, I remember like a book review that I got with my first book.
Yeah.
And the book review was something to the effect of, you just didn't like tell me everything I was supposed to do in bullet point form. Like, you just didn't give me any ideas. And I remember being like, the chapter this reviewer was referring to, I was like, there were 11 ideas in that chapter. Like, did you skim it? Like, did you not take the time to read it? Did I not like just give you the blueprint in the very front of the book? And, of course, the other part of me is like, not everything is in the book. Like, that's not how it works for most authors. Not everything is in the book because you're paying $15, $17
Right.
for this book. Not everything's in the book. First of all, I couldn't do that because it would be a really long book and I don't have the capacity to write a 400-page book. I like my books like, are in the 100 to 150 range because I know most business owners will read it and get through it.
Mhm.
But the other thing is like, how they say that like sitting is the new smoking,
Yes.
right? I think skimming
Yeah.
is the new affliction of our country, or maybe of the world. Is that ability that you skimmed it, you didn't read it, and then you missed it. Like, it happens to me all the time. I'm human. I'll skim things. Like, I skim something and send something back to my publisher, and they're like, "That's not what we're asking." And
Mhm.
I could have been really incensed about that, but I was like, "Ooh, no, that's on me. I totally skimmed. I owned it. Like, I totally skimmed your email. My bad.
Yeah.
Like, let me fix that." So.
Yeah. No, good. I think the other thing too is, a lot of people that are either solopreneurs or small businesses, they think, well, I'm not this big business, when in fact they have what you say is a superpower in their size. So, how can these boutique firms and solopreneurs really leverage that to create these one of a kind experiences that the big giants can't have?
Yeah, your size of being small is your superpower because it allows for connection on a
Mm.
deeper level and on a way that big businesses will never be able to do. Like, I know, and you do too, right? And most of your listeners are probably in the same boat as us, is that I don't just know my clients' names. I
Mhm.
know their stories. I
Yes.
know their struggles outside of business, right? Like when I work with a client, like I know my client that was double diagnosed with cancer while working with me, or the client that may be going through a divorce, or the client that may have had a death in the family, or a client that may have like grown their business so much they can barely breathe. Right. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is really hard." Like, being small means that we know our clients. We know not only their names and their faces, but we know their stories.
Mhm.
And that allows for a connection point that big businesses will never be able to leverage. Now, I'm not saying you need to leverage all the client stories and everything you know about them in your client experience, because I need you to build a repeatable process that you can do for every single client. But that ability to connect on that level will always be our superpower. It's paying attention to when those connections happen naturally, like you can't plan for them and they're just there. And then when we want to make sure that we have some actual touch points happening to build that connection happening even further, that are like always there for every client. And I think that's really important because that connection piece is ultimately what's going to lead someone to decide to put their reputation on the line and make that connection or that referral to somebody else for you. So it's one of those things to just like pay attention to as you're building out your client experience and you're building out your referable client experience, is like, remember, your superpower is your ability to connect. Please do not hide behind 100% automation. Like,
Right.
there's got to be a balance between your efficiency and automation and your engagement and connection. And our superpower is the ability to do both. We just have to figure out how to make that work, because obviously being a business owner is not like we're sitting back and like have nothing to do. So
Right. Right. Exactly. Yes. Take advantage of that. What can you do that some of the bigger places cannot do, and really, really turn that up on that. Stacey, I often talk about especially now with this age of AI, that being an expert is no longer enough. And that is what is creating this trust recession. So we've got a declining trust because of that. We have people who may be in positions that they don't want to be there. They've got a job or they're short staffed or something like that. There's more costs, there's constant noise. I could see where referrals really play a part in future proofing your business. So, what is your perspective when I think about a trust recession and
Oh,
referrals?
yeah, it's huge. And it is something that we cannot put our head in the sand and pretend like doesn't exist. I actually did a whole episode on this epidemic of us being in a trust recession. And I think it's actually been slowly happening longer than we really want to admit. I think AI only like sped up the whole trust reception process and made the chasm deeper that we're having to deal with. So I think more than anything, when you have the ability now to leverage the connection and the engagement and to be a human, people are more open to that. They're slightly skeptical of it in the beginning because they're like, wait, are you sure you're not a bot? Like, I got to figure this out. But once they realize like it's you, they will lean into that even more. Right? So I know there's a lot of people who teach like the use of AI in your business and what it looks like. And that was like all the rage last year. And now those same people are saying, but wait, you should be using AI, but you should be using it smart and you shouldn't be doing all these different things with it because it's eroding trust. Like, the pendulum just swings. It's like over here. Now, no, we're back over here. It's always somewhere in the middle, right? I am a business that doesn't use AI. And I know that makes me anomaly. And I know people think that makes me crazy. I think a lot of people use AI for their writing. That happens to be a superpower of mine. So I feel like it's something I don't need AI for. But I know people who my husband has used AI. He was like, here, let's plan a trip and use AI, right? So I see the benefits of it in our lives. But I think within our businesses, you really have to remember that the relationship is where everything starts, and the lack of a relationship is where everything can go to die. And so you have to figure out how to put relationship at the forefront of what you're ultimately doing, so that you have that ability to generate referrals. Because if I don't trust anything, you know what I do trust? I do trust somebody else that I know who says, wait, you need to work on your branding? Oh, wait, you need to work on your website? I know who you should use. That I'm going to trust over anything else that I see online, because when I see something online now, I don't know if it's real. Even reviews. I don't know if that person says that was an amazing product. Like, now I'm like one of those people who like sees Instagram ads and like all these great comments and all these great reviews. And I'm like, now I go into, a Google browser and I'm like, real reviews from XYZ product. And then you'll see everything that you didn't see online, right? That they've hidden. So I think it's important as that continues, your ability to have people who will refer business to you is going to be paramount, because it helps you survive the lulls with a trust recession. And then, of course, it allows you to ramp that up when the economy shifts and it's in a better economy. Referrals are evergreen. They never go away, but they don't fall from trees. So you have to have a process and a system in place to generate them. And, most people say to me, like, you wrote a book on referrals. Is that it? Wait, now you're coming out with a second book. Like, how much more is there to know? And I'm like, I teach 20 strategies to my clients. Some are tiny baby strategies, like just put this process in place when you're asking, a client how they heard about you, or a prospect how they heard about you. And some are big projects and programs like this one in terms of a plan for your client experience you want to put in place. But like, there's a lot to do there if you want referrals to be sustainable in your business.
Yeah, and I think it's, a totally new way of thinking about it, rather than putting that little link at the bottom of your email signature, please refer me, whatever it is. But I think a lot of people would come to this idea, Stacey, with the idea that, I know I have a marketing strategy, and that is what the purpose of marketing strategy is to do, is to get me more referrals. But a marketing strategy and a referral strategy
so different.
Aren't necessarily the same, are they? No.
They are not. They are not. And actually, it's interesting. Whenever I do a presentation and I have the opportunity to do something visually, I will show this in real time in terms of like animated like images so people can understand it. There are 3 legs to your business development or your sales stool, right? Or your sales strategy. We have traditionally taught it like there's 2. There's prospecting, like, the networking, cold calling, right? Maybe doing 7 million cups of coffee and joining a bunch of networking groups, right? So there's prospecting. And on the other hand, there's marketing. And the marketing is my website and social media and thought leadership and earned PR. And the idea, and of course, that's neither of those are an exhaustive list. But the idea was like, here's your prospecting leg, here's your marketing leg. It's a two-legged stool, which is a really wobbly stool when you want to add referrals to the equation. But if you believe referrals fit because you only have two legs, you got to fit them into prospecting or fit them into marketing. That's where the tactics come from. If you believe referrals are prospecting, then you're like, oh, well, then ask or pay or just network. If you believe referrals belong under marketing, then you're going to be gimmicky, right? And you're going to be doing things like greatest compliment you can give me is a referral. But the truth is you have a third leg to that stool of your business development or sales strategy, prospecting, marketing, and referrals. And everything about that third leg is very, very different, right down to who you're advocating. In prospecting and marketing, I'm trying to get the prospects, a potential client's attention. And referrals, I don't know who the prospect is. I'm building a relationship with a referral source. So that's the way I teach it for folks. And I talk about, we do this thing in my presentations where different activities will drop into a bucket. Like we have this bucket on the screen, and like for prospecting, all these different balls will drop into the bucket that are different activities. Then we do the same thing for marketing. All the balls like the website and SEO will drop into the bucket for marketing. But then when we show the bucket for referrals, it's not a bucket collecting individual standalone activities. This is a planter. And we got to build different layers before we can actually have what we're looking for to grow, which are referrals. And you got to put them in place in the right layers.
So since you talked about a planter, you often talk about planting referral seeds. What is one of the most overlooked seeds that business owners fail to plant?
Oh, well, I don't know if there's a most overlooked because I feel like there are a bunch. I think
what drives you crazy? What drives you crazy?
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a lot too, Lisa. Come on, we've known each other long enough for you to know there's a lot that would drive me crazy from that perspective. Right. But the one referral seed that all businesses should be planting, that all of us experience, like you may not experience every opportunity for planting a referral seed that I talk about, but one of the ones that drives me crazy is when people overlook the opportunity to plant a referral seed when somebody says, how's business? Most of the time when you're at a networking event, you're standing in line at the grocery store, you're standing on the soccer field at your kid's soccer game, and someone will be like, hey, how's it going? How's business? It is a normal question that business owners or anyone in business, but in my case, business owners will get. And the inability to know how to plant a referral seed in that moment probably drives me insane because it's so easy. Now, what I can't guarantee is you plant a referral seed in that moment, it's going to land on fertile ground. That could be a referral seed that just dropped to concrete because that person will never come across your ideal client, will never really understand what you do, and won't take the time to care. Frankly, not everybody who should be referring you will. And there's a ton of other people who have no business referring you because they don't come across your ideal client. But in that moment, when someone's like, how's business? Instead of saying it's great or it's busy or wow, we're in a crazy season right now, take that as an opportunity to talk about you being great and busy and in a crazy season from the perspective of also bringing in the referrals for new clients or clients coming through referrals into your business as well. So don't use the one where it's busy. Be like, hey, it's really busy right now, which is great. We just onboarded 5 new clients in the last month, and 4 of them came through referrals, which is amazing because that tells us we're doing something right when our other clients or other people we know in the marketplace are referring business to us. That is such a more powerful answer than, oh yeah, business is great. Thanks for asking.
Yes. And boy, does that have stickiness, because all of a sudden, if you do this one thing in one category, you just went to the top of my list, right? Of being referable. Yeah. No, I could see that big difference. I could see that. So Stacey, if someone listening could do only one thing differently this year to become more referable, I'll let you pick the one that you would like to share right now.
Oh, you know how much I do not like this question.
I know.
Get it. Because people need a baby step, right?
Yes, we do.
They need a baby step to step forward. And there's so many that I would want someone to do. But you know, the one that there's a lot that I think you should do to become referable. But there is one that I teach. It's in the book as well. There's one that I teach that I think the light bulb goes off more than likely for most business owners when they hear me talk about it and they're like, I got to do that, right? So whatever of all the things that you should be doing to generate referrals, there's one thing that will help make you more referable. And that is making sure you have a visual form of what it looks like to work with you. So in the book, we talk about this as the expectation map, right? This is not you mapping out your entire client experience and figuring out your work touch points and your relationship touch points. That's one exercise. Another exercise is actually something that's behind the scenes, right? The client doesn't ever see that. But what the client will see is what is it like to work with you? And it should be a visual, like think Candyland board game, Monopoly board game, Sorry board game, right? But don't call it Sorry, that would be bad. But like it's the idea that it's some type of visual representation, a roadmap, a winding road. I don't care, right? And we have examples in the book, and then we have additional examples provided as well for people who buy the book. But the idea there is that it's a visual representation of what I should expect the minute I say yes to working with you. Because when you have that visual representation of what it looks like to work with you, it puts you in the driver's seat of you can use that with prospects. Like, hey, if you decide to hire me, this is what it's going to look like. Or if you're talking to a new client in the new client stage and you're like, hey, you've just said yes, we're so excited to get started. As a reminder, this is what it looks like for us to do our work together. It gives you a place to go back to. And you're like, remember when we said with our visual map, we pointed out this one area that if you delayed sending us stuff, it knocks the timeline off of everything else. It's okay that you're delayed. We just want to set the expectation that you understand that everything else will be delayed because of that. It gives you a centering point to come back to center with your clients. It lets your clients know they know what they're doing because they can show it to me on a map. And it reduces some of that buyer's remorse. That expectation map of like, here's what it looks like to work with us is so very important. And you don't have to do a map that's like start to finish if someone works with you for 3 years, but you could, right? Or you could just do a map like, here's how we get you started in your first 90 days. Like there's so many variations you can do with an expectation map. That would be the one thing if they did, please don't do nothing else. But if that's the one thing they take from this conversation, that alone will be a game changer just in terms of how your clients see you.
Yeah. So all I can think of are all the listeners right now, whether they're driving or whatever they're doing, watching on YouTube, they're immediately saying, okay, I'm booking time to do this one thing. But then, this book sounds really great too, which I would highly recommend, the Referable Client Experience. But even more, work with Stacey. So Stacey, what does that look like?
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah. And I would tell folks who are like, as much as I can do is the expectation map. And if you get the book, it's chapter 4. So I break it down for you. I give you examples. We try to make it as simple as possible. But if people are like, this is exactly what I believe about referrals, and this is someone that I want to work with after you look at the Referable Client Experience. Remember, that is one of 20 things that I teach my clients how to do. So there's so much more of the ecosystem of where referrals are hiding or where you should be able to find them or create them or generate them in your business. So to work with me, I always tell folks, just go to the homepage, our home base of StaceyBrownRandall.com. Scroll down to the middle of the page and we break down how to work with me. So for some folks, there's like, I just need to dip my toe in and learn a little bit more, right? We have a starter program called Your Next 5 Referrals. If you're like, nope, I want to learn all 20 strategies, we have a couple of programs of how I teach that. It just depends on how you like to learn. So some people want to watch videos and take their time. Other people want to show up and spend 2 days with me and get it all done. We offer both. But the big thing about when people make the decision to work with me is outside of the starter course, no matter how you work with me in the other 3 ways that I work with clients, you're going to get everything you need to build your referral strategy. I don't hide things based on which way you work with me. It's more like, here's everything, but how do you want to learn it is really how I work, which makes it a little bit different, I think, from how, when you're comparing different things, most people are like, you get all these things at this level and you get everything else at a bigger level. You're going to get it all from a strategy perspective. It's just, how do you want to learn from me and how do you want access to me?
Okay, that's good. Great to know. Great to know with that. And folks, we will put all of those links in the show notes. So Stacey, thanks so much for coming back on again, having this dynamic conversation. I know a lot of people will listen to it, pass it along. So thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
All right. So what I love about Stacey's work is it aligns so perfectly with the heart of this podcast, your passion, your purpose, and your personal brand, because that all comes out in referrals. Your passion fuels the quality of your work. Your purpose shapes the way you connect with clients. And your personal brand is what people will remember and tell other people about you. So referrals don't just come from being louder or pushing harder. They come from being referable if you take nothing else away. And that happens when your client experience reflects not just what you do, but who you are. So as you step away from today's episode, ask yourself, does my client experience make people proud to talk about me? And when your passion, purpose, and personal brand align with the type of experience Stacey describes, referrals stop being something you chase and start being the natural byproduct of how you show up in the world. So thanks for joining us today. Again, if you enjoyed the episode, please feel free to share it, like it, leave a review, and we'll see you here next week on your passion, purpose, and personal brand.